Dean, in 2011, you starred in a rather excellent film called Mad Bastards, a character called TJ. A lot of TJ has a familiarity to you. I know this because I interviewed you after the film. Tell us about TJ and you.
Well, the similarities with TJ and myself. I mean, I have grown a lot since 4 years ago, and I'm keep growing too. But yeah, I mean, I was in denial with a lot of things, a lot of personal stuff, and I didn't know how to address that. And TJ was the same, and a lot of men in that situation are the same. So I was in denial. TJ was in denial. It was blame, everything, all the problems, all the issues were justified in TJ's mind and in Dean Daley-Jones's mind as well. With the acts of violence or the acts of, acts of violence. It was justified because I was in denial.
You said to me in that interview that you used to drink and smoke and fight. And now, if somebody is being racist to you, instead of hitting them, you talk to them. Tell us about this change, and how did that come about?
Okay, how did it come about? Well, I was just going back around in this cycle, you know. I'd work and I'd have a normal home and everything would be, white picket fence and mowing the lawns every second, twice a month, and doing everything fine. But there was stuff inside of me that would arise every now and again, and what I would do is, I wouldn't drink every day. I wasn't like that. But what I would do is I would reward myself, and I think I'd go out in the town, and I might not have had a drink for a couple of months, or a month or so, say for example, and I'd go out in the town, and then the slightest thing would just kick me off, and I would manifest into this entity.
A different you?
Yeah, and I was dealing with, ridicule with my fists and in a violent way, yeah. And then that would spill into the home.
How far back does that go?
The last time I was locked up was in 2009.
And what changed after that?
Well, okay, I was locked up, and I had the opportunity to take responsibility. I was looking at doing a long stretch inside because of my record, and this would happen once every 6 months. That I would flip out. Excuse me, and so I was locked up, and I spoke to a lawyer from ALS, and they said, well, you've got 2 chances here. You've got 1 chance. The option is you're going to do a long stretch inside. The option is for you not to be incarcerated for a long time, is to take responsibility and to have a look at it like it's time. So my option was to apply for conditional bail release. So I did. I applied for conditional bail release. In the 3rd hearing at court, they granted me the conditional bail release under the circumstances that I set my own program. So they could see, so that I could prove that I was driven and set a goal that I wanted to redeem myself and give back to the people I'd hurt and the people and the community, and take responsibility. And so I did. I said, yeah, I'm going to do that. So I set my own program, and I started off by every day going, I had to report every day to my parole officer, and I had to do urine tests, and then I had, slowly with my parole officer's guidance, to set my own curriculum for healing, and choosing my own programs that I wanted to do. So start off with anger management, and then alcohol abuse and drug abuse, and self, all that type of stuff. And yeah,
But you had to want to do that.
I had to want to do. I wanted to do it.
You did.
I wanted to do it.
It wasn't just to get out
Oh
of
no,
jail.
no. Look, I mean, a lot of fellas think they'll go to jail because it's easy. And it's like what I said at the end of Mad Bastards in the interview. The biggest fight that I ever had was with myself. And I could go into, like a lot of men, I could go into a bar. I could go into an environment where there was, men twice the size of me, and get myself into a situation where I had no fear, whether I was sober or intoxicated, and I had no fear. But my biggest fear I had was crossing the threshold to walk into that door to go to that men's group and put my hand up and go, yeah, I put my fist through walls, I hit her, I broke that guy's, I hurt that person physically, I did that. So once I did that, I felt like the chains were released from around my, and that was just the most enlightening time of my life, I could say. And that's a very special moment in my life when I did that.
So it wouldn't be stretching it to say that you actually turned your life around in a fairly short space of time.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, look, I turned my life around, but I learnt some skills. I learnt some skills of how to prevent that from happening. And one of the greatest skills that I learnt was to talk.
And to listen.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with being angry, but it's just how you vent it. So I put pen to paper, and that's one of the greatest things that I learnt through therapy was writing down. And the funniest thing is one of my first sessions that I had with the therapist, and he said to me, and God bless this guy, and I ended up asking him that I wanted to get a different person to help me. And this guy, he had all the credentials and he was a wonderful person, but he hadn't come from my background, and he wanted to help me, but he couldn't help me because I needed to speak to men that could relate to me. Anyway, this guy said one of the greatest things that I learned from this wonderful person was, put pen to paper. And the first time he said that to me, he goes, you should write down your feelings. And I just reacted in such a negative, belligerent way towards him. And he goes, see, there you go. But once I did start putting pen to paper, and that was Brendan Fletcher gave me that wonderful opportunity.
Brendan is the guy who made Mad Bastards.
We made, yeah.
Yeah, and he's a mate. But
he's a brother.
What is it that really enabled you to make that change? Once you made the decision that this is what you were going to do, it wasn't easy, was it?
No. I think I went for a box of these. So I learned how to cry, which was great.
Do you remember what was the first thing that made you cry?
Telling the truth about what I'd done, putting fists through walls, getting in physical altercations with people that I loved, and especially my partner, at the time. And she's a wonderful person, and she's tough as nails too. And she's still a very close friend of mine.
So what role does, in your own case, what role did forgiveness play? Did you have to forgive yourself?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, had to forgive, but don't forget.
Mm.
It's like I think my mother said to me. Excuse me. My mother said to me once, "Don't sweep things under the carpet and pretend they're not there. Put it in a jar and put it on the shelf. And if those issues come up, just remember that it's there. So that you can ask, I might be going down that way again, because there's, on the way here, just then the taxi driver, there was a guy next to us, and he was being belligerent with his, and I was looking at this guy, and I'm going, Jesus Christ, I used to be like that. I'd actually get out the car and physically drag the person out of the car, and I'm like, God, I'm sorry, you know, and I felt like just going over to this guy and just like, hey brother, you're free, you're not in jail, but your actions might lead you
Yeah.
to being incarcerated, and then you're going to realise, what the hell have I done to get myself in here? It takes 3 seconds with anger you got to act on. So I learnt these wonderful things through therapy and through other men who'd been other Aboriginal men, you know. And that's one of the greatest things I learnt through dealing with racism is that's their stuff. That's not my stuff. That's their stuff. I don't own that, so I'm not going to own it. And that's, you know, just all this stuff that I learned was enlightenment to me.
It's a great tool to
Oh, it's a
have.
great
That.
tool. It's
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
You were talking about your mother. Just tell us about the relationship that you had and
Wow.
have.
My dear mother, yeah, who I love very much and respect very much, and I'm grateful that I have my mother. Okay, first, my mother left home when she ran away from home when she was 14. Domestic violence, abuse and stuff. She ran away when she was 14. This is in the 1960s, early 1960s, and she met blackfellas in Perth, and they took her under their wing and took her into their families. And this is during the 60s where blackfellas weren't allowed her in cities. They weren't allowed her in Perth anyway. They had to have they had dog tags, or they had to have a special card so they could get into the city, and there was curfews and all that type of thing. So my mum went and lived with blackfellas. You know, my mother's from Yorkshire. She came to Australia when she was 8 years old, 10 years old, something like that. Anyway, so she blackfellas, the Nyungars, the Wajak mob, the Wajak people, Nyungars, they took my mother into their families and they looked after her, and that's how she met my father. And then my father, who was taken from his mother when he was 18 months old, and he was taken to a place called Ryland's Mission, where he was cleansed and made to become assimilated into, he was just completely changed into being. I don't like saying black or white. I wasn't brought up like to call people black or white issues, but like he had to, wasn't allowed to know anything about his culture, his heritage, his people, his past. So when he was old enough to leave the mission, he was 17 years old, and he went to find his mother, who he'd never known, and they were reunited. And wasn't shortly long after that where she was murdered in an accident through domestic violence through her brother, which was an accident.
You mean she was killed accidentally?
She was killed accidentally, yeah.
But in a.
It was in an environment that was it was at a home, and they were playing cards and they were having drinks, and one brother was egging on another brother about something, and one of the brothers picked up a chair and threw it at him, and the leg of the chair hit my grandmother and pierced her skull and killed her. So my father, anyway, going back to my father and my mother met, I think they were in a stolen car, and my mother was walking her dog down the street, and she was going to the beach, and a car pulls up, and one of the Aboriginal women that she was with in the receiving home, in the girls' home, pulled up and says, "Susie, what are you doing? How you going, sister?" And Mum goes, "Hey, how are you?" And this lady, I think it's my Auntie Barbara or somebody, said, "Oh, we're going to the beach. What are you doing?" My mum goes, "Yeah, I'm going to the beach as well." Mum jumps in the car, and they're driving down the street. Next minute, this person pops up who was asleep on the back seat, and it was my father. And he puts his hand and goes, "Hey, how you going? My name's Owen. What's your name?" So that's how my mum met my father. Anyway, my father, from suffering the trauma through Ryland's Mission and not knowing his mother, and then his mother passing away and never knowing his father, he was a wonderful, great person, but there was no tools, or there was no men's
Support.
to help him deal with this stuff. So when he drank, he evolved into this person, and he'd take it out on my mother. And then after that, you know, he would have this, which happens when you commit domestic violence. You have this, a lot of men have this massive trauma themselves, psychological trauma of what they've done. Especially when they got nowhere to go, or they don't know where to go, or they're scared to, or they don't know what to do. So, you know, I lived with women. I lived in women's refuge centres with my mother, and you know, my father never hurt us kids. Which was, you know, but he hurt my mother, and seeing her like that was child abuse as well. I mean, seeing your mother belted up, beaten up, or seeing holes in walls and stuff like that's child abuse. But my mother, you know, she's 64 now, and she's like, she's amazing. She's yeah, she's like, she's taught me so many wonderful things. Yeah, she's taught me amazing things. But I had conflict with her, you know, for years, because she wanted to wrap me up in cotton wool because I had no father, you know. I had uncles around me, but I had no father, you know. I had no, the shoulders, rides on the shoulders. I don't have a photo of me and my father together. I have photos of my father. And
Were you scared of him?
No, I only met him once. I only saw him once or twice in my life. No, I wasn't scared. No, I never felt scared of him. I just was confused.
So he was, did you...
Because I had my uncles around. I wasn't sure who was my dad at sometimes. But I knew who my dad was. But, you know, I was... And, you know, my mum, you know, because she, from what she'd went through, and she had to survive, you know. So there were times when I would be left with my uncles and my aunties. But my mum had to survive. She had to work. She had to, you know, bring home money and stuff. So, you know, it wasn't until years later that I had this conflict with my mother, and I wasn't sure she was abandoning me. And she wasn't abandoning me, you know. She was just doing what she had to do to survive. And, so, you know, my mother married, she married after my father, she married her second husband, and she married him in Fremantle prison. And she divorced him 6 years later in Fremantle prison.
But
he was a great man too. He was a great man.
Why did they marry in prison?
My mother, well, because my mother had met Brian around the time when, you know, she was fleeing from my father. And Brian was a great man, but, you know, Brian was he was a career criminal. And this is in the 1960s when government policies were forcing, there was starvation and all sorts of stuff going on in the Aboriginal community. So Brian he was a career criminal. He used to steal cars from areas like Peppermint Grove. Peppermint Grove is probably like Vaucluse here in Sydney. And he'd steal cars, rebirth them, and then sell them, and then use that money to the community to feed the kids, to feed what we used to call black Ned Kellys. It was a street terminology, black Ned Kellys, you know. So he would steal literally from the rich and feed the families, feed our mob. And he was also he didn't drink, he didn't take drugs, he didn't do anything like that. He was a real good man to my mum. I have this vague memory of Brian like I do of my father. So between Brian, my biological father, Brian, and my uncles, my dad's brothers, there was these, you know, man, I wasn't sure who was who, you know.
Did you
but I
have
sort of really deep down knew who my father really was, but there was times where I wasn't sure.
But to which men did you look up? Did you look up to any of the men?
Well, I sort of like looked up. Yeah, I looked up to him, but I wanted affection. I got taught how to fight. I got taught how to hotwire a car. I got taught how to shoot a gun. I got taught how to how to light a fire and to go hunting. And I taught how to play football. And I taught how to, you know, box, be a boxer, and taught all these wonderful things. But I never got taught how to love, probably from men. I had sisters, I had mothers, I had aunties, but I never had that taught how to be, how to speak and how to be emotional, and by men. I got taught the good things, but all those other great things, but I never got taught how to be, and how to.
Do you think you've learnt that now?
Oh yeah, I mean, I have my son. You met my son before. His name's Owen. I named him after my father. For those years that I struggled with not having my father tell me that he loves me, one of the things that I learned through healing is my own spirituality is that when my son tells me that he loves me, it's like, we have funny things. We have funny ways of healing ourselves, and so yeah, when my son tells me he loves me, it's like my father. I say, oh, that's what I think anyway. It helps me. It gives
Well,
me.
now he's nearly 17. What was your relationship like with him, with your son, when he was smaller? Before
We've
you...
always had a great relationship, but it was distant at times, especially when I was, yeah, when
When
I
you had
was
one
on
of
the
your...
run. When I was on the run, whether it was from the cops or mainly from myself, I was on the run from myself.
But you are now consciously a role model for him and have been for the last
And
few years.
yes, yeah.
And how has that... Have you seen a change in him as a result?
Look, every parent says their child's special, and I think that's true. That is true. Every child is special. Everyone's special. Everyone especially children. And I think that's because I don't think people are born evil, and I think that's when kids aren't taught, when kids aren't shown that they're special. I think that's what makes them turn into angry, traumatized people. But anyway, Owen's always been a special boy. He's always been his own little man. He's like, one thing that with Owen is that, and I believe that kids pick up things and learn things when they're in the womb, when they're growing. And Owen's never been, he's never been a kid to have a little tantrum over not getting an ice cream. Or he's never been a little whinging little kid like that. He's always been this, he's like an old Aboriginal man. He's like Uncle Dougie, Uncle Black out of Mad Bastards, just at the same level all the time. And I'm just like, we thought me and his mother are still close, We're closer now than what we were in the last year of our relationship. And we've been separated. I don't like saying separated either. Our
You've been apart.
relationship is a bit different to how it was 10 years ago. But anyway, me and his mother, we think, sometimes he's a bit quiet, does his own thing, and he's still like that. And we, think, is he depressed or is he, has he suffered? But no, he's fine. He's just got a real gentle soul and he knows who he is. That's real. I mean, that's one thing that we've always said to him from a little baby. We want, love yourself, be an individual.
So he perhaps...
I learned that from my mother. My mother gave me that, but yeah.
Perhaps, unlike you, when you were the old dean, who had, as you put it, rather nicely, you felt like there was a little man with an axe inside you when you were angry.
Yeah, he's still there.
Is he?
He's still there, but he's dormant.
Is the axe maybe, has he dropped the axe maybe?
The axe is down at the moment. Yeah, it's laying down. But there's still, and it hasn't been picked up for a long time, and it's less and less and less.
Have you thought about why he was there in the first place? Why you felt angry?
I do know why now, and I did know then, but I think from with the government policies that happened in this country, that were introduced into this country, with children being taken away from their mothers and their families, for that to happen, they had to take the men away. So the warriors weren't there to protect the children and protect the children and the women. So government policies that were introduced in this country made me angry. My father being taken away from his mother, what happened to my people in Australia made me angry. My mother wanted to wrap me up in cotton wool, made me angry. My mother wanting to do, not realising that, she was trying to do both jobs, the man and the female. So, not having a dad around, not having the role, I had men around me, but not having
not a hero,
the one solid
yeah,
man around all the time,
yeah.
Who was going to be, I used to blame the system for my father passing away when I was a little boy. He was 38 years old. I blamed the system for him suffering the trauma that he suffered when he was in Roland's mission. It's like what happened to so many Aboriginal people, whether it was rape, whether it was violence, not being separated from their family. So I know why I was angry. I mean, I used to walk down the street. I'd walk into a pub, and I used to go into certain pubs so that I could have this by everybody in the pub, and I'd go, right, who's first? You, or you, because you're all racist rednecks, and I'd want to go through them all. Whether I came out walking or whether I came out crawling, I wanted to deal with it some way or another, like that. And that was, yeah.
And that was when you owned it. Now you don't own it.
Yeah, I don't, no. I walk into those places, people, hey, go on, brothers, we're all, I want to learn from you, can you learn from me? People are entitled to feel how they want to feel, but you can change them by, look, I still have colourful friends, I have people that, I have my brothers that are going to be locked up for another 5 years. I have people that are involved with my family that are involved with activities. I love them, but and I walked away from those activities, myself.
Well,
and and they respect me and I respect them. That's their thing. I have friends, non-Aboriginal friends, who look certain ways and they have certain tattoos on their bodies that people would just judge them and think, how come a black man is with those people? But those people show me love and respect too, and they aren't, because of the tattoos on their bodies doesn't make them like that,
You're doing a lot of work with men's health. It's a broad umbrella term for a lot of things that you do, trying to help other people. From your using your experiences, tell us a little bit about what it is that you're trying to do and how you do it.
Like I said before we started the interview, one of the things that I don't try to do, that I can do that is easy, is do a lot of listening. Especially when I go into prison, or when I go to these Aboriginal men's camps and there's men that have, whatever they've suffered, trauma or whatever abuse it is they've been through, substance abuse, whatever, just do a lot of listening. And then...
do you have to encourage them to talk?
When you've told them that you've been through the similar stuff and they look at you and they go, they just want to tell you. So yeah, they want to tell you. I mean, juveniles, the young men are the ones that are. I've spoken with, men that have been put in the category as violent men that should never be allowed in the community ever again, and I've seen them come to tears because they've started talking. And I was seeing young guys in their in their teens in juvie, and you try to talk to them, and they're like, and I'm just looking at them going, "You remind me of myself," you know. It's like, hey, you know, I used to have a chip on my shoulder. It was that big. Now it's like that. If it gets any, it doesn't go any. It just stays around there. But yeah, getting men to talk is a great thing, and men want to talk when they, especially when they feel comfortable around, and they know, because it's in light. You know, they go, this guy's been down the same road as I've been down. I want to tell him he can relate to me, and I can relate to him. Wow! And but look what he's, look what he's done. Maybe I can do that too. And they start talking. That's great.
One of the things that identify you now is your acting. You've done a bit of acting in the past, but more and more now you have a higher profile as an actor, and it helps to identify you, I guess, to yourself as well. But what about country? How important is country for you?
Yeah, country is very important. Country, when I, 2007, 2008, when I could feel that it was closing in on me. My reign of belligerent, in denial and blame and all this negative stuff that I have that was coming to an end. I went back up to the Kimberley, and I went back to country, and that's when, and then I had my last confrontation with myself and the law in Kimberley, and then the land, and again, it was very healing for me. And being around people with culture, strong culture, is just amazing. Languages, hunting traditional foods and stuff like that. Culture was just culture. Yeah, so much. I mean, I practice urban culture and urban law, LORE law, at home in Perth. I have my smoking ceremonies. I live right near the Derby-Yurigan, which is the Swan River in Perth. But I have my church is just half a kilometre away from me, which is Walliabup, which is what we call the whitefella terms. They call it Bibra Lake, and we have all these massive water areas, and that's where our waku is our rainbow serpent sort of like rested there. So that's my church, that's my healing, that's my hospital, that's my doctor there. Even though I have balance with conventional medicine and whitefella medicine to go to the doctor, but I have my own, and I have faith, I'm not a Christian, but I love the messages of Jesus, and I believe that Jesus was, I like Jesus. I think he's a cool dude. He was a criminal as well, and he redeemed himself, and he took. Anyway. But my church is, my faith is with the rainbow serpent and with spirituality, and my country, my land. I love it. Yeah, so much. It's on my conscience all the time. I'm a black fella. I'm a Noongar man. I'm Wajak, Wadandi. That's my clans. And that's in me all the time. Every step I take, it's on my conscience. I say my prayers to that for thanks.
And you try, and this is what you do in prisons, I gather, and that is to bring culture, your
Culture. It's
culture
what I want to do.
people.
It's the proven. It's the only way. I mean, and I'm a living example of it. I wouldn't be here. I'd be in jail or I'd be dead if my culture didn't come into, and my faith with my culture and my people and country and land.
How would you explain how different you feel and how different you are now at this point in the road that you're on to 5-6 years ago?
Well, when you can be released from prison and you're physically free, but if you're in denial and you're still blaming, you're not free within yourself. Well, I don't feel like that anymore. I feel free from that anger, and you know, I sincerely, genuinely am thankful and grateful for my culture and my people, and non-Aboriginal, not Indigenous people too. So I feel free, and I'm not. I wish I could probably show you an example of it. But I used to walk around like this, and now I walk around like this, and I smile at people. But I used to walk around like this, And I was like, and I wasn't. But now I walk tall and I stand strong and I smile and I have smiling eyes. So, smiling eyes are good. And if people are staring, like years ago, if people were staring at me, I was like, what, have you never seen a black fella before? But now I'm like, hey, how you going? How are you? If they smile and wave back, they do. If they don't, they don't, Because I also used to go, what are you looking at? How you going, brother? And if they'd smiled or waved, they did. And if they didn't, I'd go, what, don't you want to shake a black fella's hand? So I was just, so I don't have none of that stuff anymore. It's just whatever. It's okay, people, and feel free. I feel free and I'm happy, I mean, there's things that upset me, but I have a different way. There's things that upset me, but I don't go to this like I used to. I socialise, I go to these film events. I might have a glass of wine with a meal. I might have a beer, but I don't go to reach for anything to medicate myself. Heroin. I used to do that. And other drugs. I was just something. If there was a crisis or something, I would go, and then I would feel bad about myself for not being a man, and then I'd get angry, and this stuff would happen. So I don't do that anymore. And my culture. And other cultures too. Once you explore into your own culture and your own background, know where you are, know where you're from, and know who you are, then other cultures' knowledge is great. And I love, I respect people who have faith, whatever it is. I think that's good. People having faith, and I want people to have faith when you see things on TV, or here in Sydney, and it's getting like that in Perth. I see people in the street, with a sign, they've got no food or nothing, and I don't feel sorry for people, because that's bullshit. I never want anybody to feel sorry for me, neither does any of the brothers inside want anybody to feel sorry for them. They have a bit of empathy. Empathy is genuine, and I have empathy for people. I don't know the answers for everyone, but I do have empathy for people, and I just do, and I can't understand how people can implement policies and to rehabilitate people when they have no idea what they're rehabilitating them for, Because everybody wants love, don't they? And you got to teach people to love themselves, and that's not vanity. People looking in the mirror all day, doing their hair. Of course, it's good to have pride in the way you look and the way you... But teaching people to love themselves, vanity, and so they can love other people. You love yourself, you're going to get love. And that's what everybody wants. Everyone wants love.
Thanks, Dean. Terrific.
Thanks.